All Century 21 real estate offices are independently owned and operated.
This is the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. Good morning. I'm Jackie Ruddy, and with my husband, fellow realtor, Pat Devaney.
Good morning, Jackie. How are you today?
You know, it's like you never saw me before.
No, I haven't seen you in like 5 minutes.
Until you walked into the studio, right? So I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Good.
How are you today?
Very good, dear.
All right. We have with us for the second week in a row the folks from Milnes Engineering, Construction, and Survey, Lindy LaRue, Chief Surveyor, and Lexi Langen, Business Development Leader. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
We're here every Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m., where we talk real estate. We have a full-time real estate office with many relentless realtors who have been guiding, assisting, and advising clients in real estate matters for 50 years.
50 years. Wow. During the week, feel free to email us with any questions you have at questions@jruddy.com. That's questions@jruddy.com. Or you can give us a call at 570-344-6724. And when you're at jruddy.com, click on the webcam tab and see what's going on at Dunmore Corners. Usually not much exciting weather now, but in the dead of winter, it's pretty good.
View our listings, search the MLS listings, and listen to archive radio shows by going to mobile-friendly jruddy.com, jruddy.com, where you can also find our popular podcast apps where we offer the radio show on. And if you are a podcaster and you like podcasts, give us a like, subscribe. You can search it on your app, The Real Estate Roundtable with Jackie Ruddy, and we should come up. Okay. Milnes Engineering, Construction, and Survey. I'd like a little brief history on you and the company, please.
My name is Lexi Langen. I'm their business development leader. I do all of their brand awareness, marketing, and sales. We have been in business for over 65 years. We are a 3 generations old company, family owned and operated. It's awesome working there. I love it. Be sure to follow along, like and share on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Search MILNESCOMPANIES.com, and you can find links to all of those things.
Thank you. Okay, so last week we talked about surveys, a lot of myths, that they're too expensive, or you could read a deed. In the deed, there's the property line or the lot dimensions. You don't need to have a survey because the deed pretty much tells you where the land is. But there is a method to your madness, let's say. There's a method. There's points in there, starting points, that your average person doesn't know where they actually are located. You have instruments.
Where do you start? It's called a point of beginning.
Yes.
And it's a mystery that you cannot find. It's like the Harry Potter, you can't find it. You have to know where to look.
I always relate a survey to a puzzle, and that's the missing puzzle piece that everybody seems to be looking for, is that point of beginning or point of commencement. And there's a lot of things that, we'll utilize in doing a survey. There's a lot of things that you won't see your surveyor do because it's stuff that's not done in the field. So for every hour that you see the surveyor in the field, that field crew, there's at least 2 to 3 hours of work that you don't see a surveyor in an office doing. So when somebody calls for a quote, we will pull some title information, and by title information, I mean the recorded documents that are in the courthouse. Nowadays, everything is online, of course, so we're able to do it right from our desktop. And we'll pull the deed for the parcel that the client who's called us. We'll pull the adjoining parcel deeds. We'll pull any maps in the area. And we can generally give a quote based off of that information. But when it comes time for the actual survey, when a client hires us, we will research that property even further. We'll take that property back to its origination. That way we can see if there's anything that's going to affect those property lines adversely. If there may have been an easement that's not in the current deed that was missed in a title search, or not written by a scrivener correctly, we'll be able to find that in our research of the historical records for that parcel. And once all those historical records are gathered, then we'll be able to utilize those positions that are told in those deeds, the bearings and distances, the monuments that are called for, the adjoiners' names even that are called for, and we'll be able to compile that all and utilize the information that's gathered in the field to complete that survey and properly place those boundary lines in the field with our monuments if they're not there.
So we had a property last year that we had in Dunmore, and I had a neighbor want to go see the property, possibly purchase it, called me. They went through the property. They were interested. After some back and forth, it was determined that the driveway of the subject property actually was owned like 3/4 of it on his property. The owner hadn't put that in the seller's disclosure, it wasn't mentioned. So it was news. And I was able to go online, get the survey that was recorded. So you gave good advice last week. Record your survey. Because a lot of people don't, but I was able to find that survey, and it did have that on it, that it was owned by the neighboring property. So it was then properly disclosed to the future buyer, who wasn't the client that I was talking to. So, I mean, that could have been a disaster.
It certainly could have, and that's one of just 1,000 stories that any surveyor could tell you as to why you have your survey recorded.
And so I was happy to stumble upon that information, but had he never called, we wouldn't have known. And then the hedges in the back of the property bothered one of the tenants that lived in the property that we were selling, and they cut down, and they were his hedges. He cut them down to the ground.
They cut the neighbors down?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Right. But, and he didn't do anything about it. But that happens too. We get the calls. When somebody can't find the owner of record, but our sign sits out in the front yard with our number prominently displayed, people call us.
Right, like to cut the grass.
To cut the hedges, the overhanging of the tree branches. So what what they perceive as their problem becomes our problem.
You have become the face of that property.
Right. So we're supposed to do something about it, but we are not property managers. But I think a lot of people need to vent and want to, are frustrated, and they want us to do something about it. And the best thing I can do, and the best advice I give people is, I will share this with the current property owner, but I can't come out there and do anything that you're requesting me to do. But getting back to surveys. So thank God that survey was recorded, because I was able to, research it. But, our current deeds just say subject to previous easements, reservations, etc. It doesn't state what they are.
No, it certainly wouldn't. And there is a type of survey out there. It's an Alta NSPS survey, they call it now, which is it's a land title survey. So when someone calls and asks for that Alta NSPS survey, generally there's more than just a boundary survey associated with it. We'll get an abstract of title from a title abstractor who has actually researched that property. We'll be able to see what all of those easements of record may be, what all of those right-of-ways of record may be, any exceptions and reservations that may have been in a prior deed conveyance. A lot of
times
they will
get 20 deeds ago.
Oh, it certainly could be. I mean, I've seen them from the 1800s where, Mr. Smith reserved rights to a spring, or where someone was able to reserve rights to a certain walking path on a property, but that's still out there. That hasn't been extinguished yet. Now, there are ways to have that extinguished. Again, legal counsel would be needed to be able to do that. But those are things that are shown on what we have as an Alta NSPS survey. And they're just a little bit more in depth. A lot of commercial buyers will look at them, but I have done them for certain residential buyers as well. That way, their title insurance company is very clear as to what that property is that they're insuring.
Okay, let me ask you something. Where did drones come into all of this?
That's a very good question. So, like
you're a licensed drone pilot.
I am, as well as you. Which so the basics about the drone licensure and everything that's required with it, and it's just another tool that we utilize as technology has gotten better and better and better. I spoke of last week about surveyors starting off with compasses and chains and pacing and tape measures. Obviously now we've got into the GPS technology, and now we're starting to break into the drone technology. And this drone technology is very useful for us. So we've been able to do aerial photography for years and aerial surveys as surveyors, where we would fly them conventionally with airplanes. We would go out, we would set large targets for these airplanes. We would locate those targets. They would fly the flight path. They would take their aerial photos, and they would put those photos together into what they call an orthomosaic, and they would be able to generate one large site photo that would be at scale and show all the features of the parcel, as well as giving some general topography of the parcel as well. But now we're able to do that with drones, which, again, saves time, saves money, and, the average Joe, I guess, can utilize this. As long as they're, familiar with the Part 107 test, they're able to take the test through the FAA, they can be licensed, and, it's just a great tool for surveyors to utilize this. So we fly just about every property that we survey now, and that gives us a better picture of what's there from a top-down view, today in the real world. So we're able to see not only the buildings, the structures, but any hedges, fence lines, anything that's going to help us, be able to recreate a better map for our client.
Have you ever lost a drone?
We have had one drone crash. We had one drone that
flew away.
It did not fly away. It was in its landing routine. So a lot of the times, what we do is we have a pre-programmed flight, and we pretty much press the go button, and it flies that predetermined flight. And this particular flight was over, and as the drone came back, it was doing its descent to its home location, and I guess we learned the lesson of not to use aftermarket batteries. But I hear Pat has had some similar issues that we have had.
Yeah, I put my drone up, was taking pictures of a property, and it was a little too windy, and I put it up, and it was like a horror movie. The thing's going up, and now all of a sudden it's not responding across the screen, and it just took off. And here I am, this old man running across a field yelling at his drone.
Come back!
Come back, drone! It didn't listen to me, and who knows where it is
like
now.
A teenager.
Yeah, but it was out in the woods, so we were okay.
Well, that's very fortunate. I know
we never found it.
We never found it.
I know it's it's certainly concerning when you see that and it's coming back and there it comes down.
Oh, yeah. Well, the aftermarket batteries, you got to be careful, because I'll put mine up and then I'll put it up and all of a sudden I'll get the red warning. Boop, boop, boop. You got to come back because it's just ran out of juice like instantly. So
I've seen people post on Facebook pictures of their roof lines with drones on them. Come pick up your drone.
I see it all the time where there's found a drone in my backyard. Anyone recognize this?
Yeah. So it happens. How do mineral rights affect the use of land and surveys?
So again, a lot of times mineral rights will be reserved in a prior deed. We do see that. There are mineral surveys out there where we will be surveying for, say, a unit boundary for a natural gas pool from any particular natural gas company. So mineral rights do come into play with those reservations. Generally, they're conveyed throughout history and time from, individual owner to individual owner. But now with the production of the Marcellus Shale, we do see those rights reserved quite often.
So, obviously out in Tunkhannock, where you're based, it's gas country. Not so much down by us. We have a coal clause in our deed, but you come across it quite often.
We do. In the research of all of our properties, most everything, Susquehanna County, northern Wyoming County, we will see reservations for oil and gas leases, oil and gas pools, right-of-ways for pipeline, any production instrumentation that they would need, whether it's a dehydration station or a compressor station. We have seen, now we do have a few natural gas to electric power generation stations that have gone in, and there are reservations on properties for those, for certain pieces of equipment that are required. So it is quite a common thing to find now.
All right, let me ask you something. If you go to certain websites and you look at a parcel of land and you can kind of get the boundaries, and then you hit the imagery, where it's got the parcel boundaries in there, how accurate are those boundaries on the map?
So if you go to any tax assessment website to find a tax map. They'll generally have a Google Earth or a Bing map, some sort of aerial imagery behind them. And what a lot of people don't notice is when you go to print one out, in the lower corner, every county's assessor will put a similar note on there that says that these are not surveyed boundaries, they're not accurate. Sometimes they are very, very close, and I've seen them up to 60 feet off on other properties. So they're more of a generality, or they're more of a general area.
Get you in the ballpark.
Yeah, they get you in the ballpark.
So they're not real accurate.
They are not.
Okay.
With us today is Milnes Engineering, Construction, and Survey, Lexi Langen, Business Development Leader, and Lindy LaRue, Chief Surveyor. How does someone get in touch with you, please?
You can give us a call at our office at 570-836-2145. You can find us online at milnescompanis.com. Be sure to like, share, and follow on all our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Great. Thank you. Pat, would you like to review a listing?
Yes, we have a 2-unit duplex-style home at 215 Willow Street in Dunmore for only $109,000. This building has a 2-bedroom apartment and a 1-bedroom apartment. It has long-term tenants, and they're paying below-market rents. The units are in very good condition, and all of the utilities are paid for by the tenants, including heat, water, sewer, and electric. Each unit has a covered front porch with a nice yard, and this is the best part, low taxes of less than $1,500 a year. That's a 2-unit in Dunmore at 215 Willow Street for only $109,000, and that's listed by Tom Pavlowski of our office.
Okay, we'd like to welcome Jessica Kalinowski. Does this make sense or what? Jessica Kalinowski, everybody knows her as Jessica Kalinowski, licensed since 2012. Is Jessica Ruddy.
Wow. She changed her name to come to your company?
Yeah, well,
Wow, that's dedication.
She married Eddie Ruddy.
Oh.
Well, yeah, last year her name change finally went through with the Real Estate Commission, so she is Jessica Ruddy. It just makes total Ruddy sense,
Yes,
right?
it does.
Okay. She was her own company for a lot of years, but she was licensed back in 2012. She has done a tremendous amount of real estate in that time period. She also was a property manager for 200 plus units for 10 years. So she knows real estate from a lot of different perspectives. She currently resides in Troop with Eddie and her 4 children, and she is a tremendous asset to our company. So we'd like to welcome Jessica.
Yes, she's an asset.
Okay, headed towards a break. We'll be back in a few moments with more Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on 94.3 FM The Talker. Don't go anywhere.
Who are Century 21 agents? They're high-tech gizmo-packing problem solvers with an appetite for getting things done. They know the best places to buy a home, to sell a home, and to find antiques, if you're into that kind of thing. They're weatherproof, foolproof, and proof positive that smart people doing good work can make big things happen for great folks like you. Oh, and there's one nearby. This is who they are. This is what they do. Century 21 agents. Smarter, bolder, faster. Each office is independently owned and operated.
Hi, this is Jackie Ruddy from Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. Is real estate on your mind? It's on ours 24/7. Whether you're buying, selling, investing, or in need of an appraisal, you have questions, we have answers.
Thinking of buying or selling a house and have questions? Tune in to the Real Estate Roundtable hosted by locally owned and operated Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on Saturday mornings at 11 and Sunday mornings at 11:30.
Call 570-344-6724 or visit jruddy.com. That's JRUDDY.com. Thanks for tuning into the Real Estate Roundtable. We're back.
We're back.
We're back. I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker, and with Pat Devaney, my husband, fellow realtor,
Yes.
and the folks from Milnes Engineering, Construction, and Survey. We have with us Lindy LaRue, Chief Surveyor, and Lexi Langen, Business Development Leader, having a great discussion with you today. I want to just talk about something we haven't talked about yet, subdivisions. And what I'm thinking of is from time to time, it's rare, but it happens, where we come across a property owner who wants to sell their property, and it's, standard lot size, nothing huge, maybe a little larger than a standard size, and they just want to sell a portion of it.
They want to sell their yard to the neighbor.
But they don't understand that involves subdivision and subdividing. Can we talk about what that entails, please?
Yes, we can. So we do a lot of subdivision work as land surveyors. Every land surveyor does a subdivision work, and there are a few different types of subdivisions that are available for options out there. There's a reverse subdivision that, in the situation that you're talking of, if it's an adjoining landowner and the land could be contiguous, we could do a reverse subdivision, which we would add a portion of one piece of property to another to create one overall larger parcel. Now, with subdivisions, we have to keep in mind a few things. Subdivisions are highly regulated. They're regulated by the local municipality or borough, and there are two sets of regulations I will say that you have to go down. So normally a municipality or a borough would have a subdivision and land development ordinance. That ordinance would tell you, whether you're going to be required to do a major subdivision or a minor subdivision, and what's going to be required additionally for that major or minor subdivision. It may be a stormwater permit's necessary. It may be a driveway permit that's necessary. It may be sewage planning is going to be necessary. So in Pennsylvania, DEP regulates any change in a boundary line needs to be accounted for with sewage planning. So in town, that may not be a big issue if you're on a big community sewage system, but in more rural areas, when individual lots have sand mounds or conventional septic systems, we have to account for that every time we subdivide a piece of property. So we want to ensure that the lot that is going to be sold is a buildable lot, in other words. And if it's not going to be a buildable lot, then we have to plan for it accordingly. So with that being said, in the situation that you had just described, we would want to make sure that when we looked at that subdivision and land development ordinance, that we were able to classify that property. But also we want to look at the remaining lands, and we want to make sure that that fits within the zoning regulation. So the zoning regulation, if that particular municipality has a zoning regulation, we will want to make sure that that lot conforms to their standard size, that the buildings that are within that particular lot conform to the building setbacks. We want to ensure that everything that is going to be affected by that subdivision conforms. And if it doesn't conform, there are a few things we can do. We can try to go in for a variance, which is sometimes difficult to obtain if it's through the zoning ordinance, or if it's through the subdivision and land development ordinance, we can ask for a waiver of release for that particular item. Certain times with larger tracts, a subdivision and land development ordinance may say that the map has to be a certain scale. Well, that scale wouldn't be effective for, say, a 500-acre parcel. So we may ask for relief or a waiver from that subdivision and land development ordinance to show that lot at say, a 200 scale on the map, as opposed to the 100 scale that the ordinance would require. But each and every municipality is going to have a different subdivision and land development ordinance and a different zoning ordinance that will kind of direct your subdivision.
So some people think that it's real easy. I'm just going to buy the...
And in theory, it sounds great, right? And as a theory, it can be a wonderful idea. But when you act from a practical standpoint, when you actually have to go through this, it's a process, and it can be rather complicated.
Complicated and expensive, it sounds like.
Expensive is another word.
It can be complicated. It certainly is going to, add a cost factor to the survey. But it's also a time, too. Some individuals will think that, I'm going to call my surveyor, and he's going to, A, be able to come right out, and B, is going to be able to give me a description for this portion of property that I'm going to convey to an adjoiner, to a new buyer. And they don't realize the amount of time that this takes to go through the subdivision process, not just on the survey side of things, but on the municipal end of things and the review process from any agency that any of the paperwork has to go out to review. If it's a major subdivision, most municipalities are going to be a 90-day process. DEP planning takes time.
DEP takes time? You mean they're not quick and efficient?
DEP is fantastic.
Okay, they're fantastic.
That I'm going to put on radio. DEP is fantastic. And Milne's engineering plans should be placed through quicker.
Right. How long does the survey, obviously, we're not talking about major acreage here, but so a standard survey, if someone needed a survey, how long of a process can they expect?
Generally speaking, the process time for a survey from the day that we're able to be on site to start to the day that we're able to hand a completed map is generally 1 to 2 weeks, depending on the size of the parcel, the amount of research that we have to put into it, and how busy, of course, our schedules are going to be. We're able to come out and do the initial field work, locate what we can find for evidence on the property, whether it's a natural monument, and by natural monument I mean a deed call for a tree or a stone wall, the artificial monuments, which would be the monuments that were placed by surveyors, and any other pertinent information that's going to tell us the location of the boundary. And again, all the physical features that we like to put on our maps to show the general location of everything on the final platted survey. And then we'll bring that information back and we'll reduce it. We'll be able to see, how those monuments match the deed calls, how those monuments would affect the neighboring parcels. There's an issue of junior to senior rights in a survey as well. Which parcel came out first? Which parcel came out second? Again, that goes back to retracing these deeds back to their origin.
How many times do you see deeds these days that say meets and bounds?
Just about every deed now is a meets and bounds deed that's produced. I mean, everything is by surveys, so we'll see meets and bounds. A lot of the older deeds we'll see a bounded by deed. And then there are some deeds from tax sale that don't include a point of beginning. They just may be a bounded by deed that says on the north by Smith, on the east by X, south by Y, and on the west by Z. And those surveys take a little bit longer. They become a little bit more problematic because there is no physical meets and bounds evidence that we can tie it to.
Okay, what is a meets and bounds?
So a meets and bounds would be your bearings and distances, as well as the call for, say, maybe a property line goes along a meandering stone wall, or the center of a creek, or along a fence line, or in and along, a chain link fence.
Okay.
And then, again, the bounds portion of that would be the adjoiner's name at the time. And generally you'll see that as now or formerly.
Right. And so that could be like eons ago.
It certainly could be. So if you were to sell your property now and, it calls for your adjoiner, but your adjoiner sells 2 weeks from now, well, that surveyor is going to have to know that your adjoiner was sold, and he's going to have to go back through the records to be able to find who that adjoiner was at that time.
Okay, well, we had 2 weeks of fabulous discussion with Milnes Engineering, Construction, and Survey, Lexi Langen, Business Development Leader, and Lindy LaRue, Chief Surveyor. How does someone get in touch with you and your company, please?
You guys can log on to MILNES Companies, COMPANIES.com. That's millscompany.com. Be sure to check out all of our projects we've been working on. We are the one-stop shop for general construction, civil engineering, and survey. Survey is both residential and commercial. Be sure to give us a call at our office if you need any of our needs at 570-836-2145. And be sure to like and share and follow us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Thank you. We had a great discussion. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Pat?
Yes, we have a beautiful 4-bedroom home. It's in the Greenridge section of Scranton at 1032 Fisk Street for $180,000. This lovely home, it's only 1 block from Marywood University. It has beautiful hardwood flooring, an updated large tile bath. It's got 3 bedrooms on the 2nd floor and an additional bedroom on the 3rd floor. This home, it's got a fireplace, a sunroom outside of the kitchen, and a slate patio in the yard, and a great front porch. That's a beautiful 4-bedroom home with a fireplace at 1032 Fisk Street in Scranton for $180,000, and that's listed by Jessica Ruddy of our office.
Jessica Ruddy, yes. We're out of time. Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable. We'll be back Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Remember to tune in on 94.3 FM The Talker.